Welcome back, everyone. Open Line. We are talking with the Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union, Hedy Weinberg, just about the past year, what's coming up this year, some of the things ACLU is involved with. But let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Lucy. Hello, Lucy.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, what's on your mind?
A few things here. First, I want to thank Ms. Weinberg for all the years that she has served the people of Tennessee. I have to admit, years ago, I bought into the rhetoric that the ACLU was just, quote unquote, a liberal organization because that's what everybody was pounding on and saying. But when I grew up, I found out differently. You guys have even defended one of your attackers, Rush Limbaugh.
It's true.
So I really don't think people understand what civil rights are. Jefferson said that the majority in power, which could be the minority in number, their job is to protect the minority, even though it's the majority in number, protect their civil rights. And, about 60 years ago, you guys took on a case that changed a lot of people's lives in this country and set them free. And up in Bowling Green, Virginia. And, I was old enough to understand what was going on, and I heard my family members, argue how wrong it was for you guys to do that, when in fact our ancestors helped construct the Constitution of the United States. And through the decades, I've rethought this back and forth, and back and forth. And I don't think people understand that it's just not black and white. It's something, it's an ideal that we strive for. And I take offense when people say, oh, this is a capitalist society. This is not a democracy. Well, by golly, it's a democracy to me, and I appreciate you guys hanging in there to fight the fight. One of the things I want to comment on before, I just want to thank you, Ms. Weinberg, for what y'all do. But one of the things I want to comment on is I'm going to have to go back and read the Tennessean, today's Tennessean, because I could have swore I read in there where Core Civic has made a big land purchase or building purchase or something, and they're going to become the federal government, if I read it correctly, and the state of Tennessee's landlord. So there has been some money in all this criminal justice craziness that's gone on for about 30 years now. They made a lot of money off of it, enough money to become now the landlord of the government. So now we, the people, they're our landlord here in the state of Tennessee when it comes to like Homeland Security. I think the Secretary of State's office might be in there. So fight the good fight because the money's not going to get these people out of prison and protecting them while they're in there and paying the workers.
Okay, and Lucy, thank you.
Hang in there.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So a lot there from Lucy.
Yeah, well, Lucy is, and thank you, Lucy. So let's talk a little bit about Core Civic, prison privatization. Tennessee's the home of, I will call them Core Civic, interesting name change, supposed to give you a different sense of who they are. One of the first things, almost probably 30 years ago, that was the one thing I saw at the state legislature where the state of Tennessee, where Core Civic wanted to purchase the entire Tennessee prison system. It was before anyone was talking about prison privatization. We'd never really even thought that it was going to be a conversation at the legislature. ACLU and AFSCME, American Federation State, County, Municipal Employees, got together and worked really hard to, sort of see that project go downhill and not pass. There was, though, the legislation that passed was the ability to have some prisons and jails. We have always believed that locking people up, right? Who gets to lock people up? Only the government, and in very specific circumstances. Mm-hmm. Why would we contract that out to the private sector to decide how people are treated inside, what food they eat, what schooling opportunities, training opportunities are available? When they first hired people, Core Civic, they were hiring wardens from prisons that had miserable terrible reputations, not only the wardens coming in, but the kind of unsanitary, violent activity taking place in some of these prisons. And unfortunately, even 30 years later, we've seen very similar situations. The ACLU, we have a prison project out of our national office, and they worked very closely with the ACLU of Idaho, where there was a prison, they used to call it the Gladiators prison, because they would let inmates, individuals in prison, fight each other, where there was no recognition of what they knew what they were creating.
Right. Is there a lawsuit here in Tennessee involving?
There are some great lawyers in town who have been representing individuals who have been in jails or in some of the state-run prisons here, run by CoreCivic, where they have represented the individuals. There is not a lawsuit that I'm aware of that is challenging, the contracts or the actual idea of prison privatization. There have been some great activists engaged in protest, engaged in raising awareness. ACLU had a campaign several years ago, which actually got very little media attention, and we wondered why. But just explaining who is CoreCivic. Mm-hmm. Where's their money from? How do they spend their money? How do laws get passed that support them? During the Obama administration, it became very clear how destructive the facilities were, and that CoreCivic was building more ICE facilities. And President Obama said we were shutting down that opportunity for CoreCivic. Of course, new administration, and this administration has opened the doors wide and is allowing CoreCivic to run the immigration, and other private sector groups to run the immigration facilities. But it's very disturbing because, again, incarcerating people in and of themselves, locking them in cages, is something that should not be happening all the time the way it's happening in this state or country. But if it does happen, you need to ensure safety, security, access to health care.
So that's definitely an area, Lucy, thank you for calling in. That's definitely an area where you're focused, and you have been focused in the past. All right, we're going to take a break. I want to ask about police body cams. So that's certainly been in the news, certainly something we've talked about on this show.
Yes.
And hear from your perspective on that. We'll take a break. If you want to call in, there's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.